Yeah, that's always the goal. Every year, the goal is to make the world team because that's the biggest stage in our sport. Yeah, that's where I want to be.
That was Olin Hacker today, back on the podcast. He's been on the podcast a few times throughout the years. He's an absolute stud. He's one of the best runners in America right now. And back in the day, as an athlete at Wisco, University of Wisconsin, Olin was an NCAA champion. He now runs for Hoka in Northern Arizona Elite, based out of Flagstaff, Arizona. Olin is on a tear. He just won his first U.S. road title in the 5K in Indianapolis, Indiana. He won that in really fun, stunning fashion. Had a great celly at the end that we talk about at the beginning of this conversation. Olin's also potentially starting a podcast soon. Got big ambitions for USAs this year. Got a new, refreshed perspective on the sport. I always love my conversations with Olin. We've been at a handful of meets with each other over the years, so we have this sort of friendship off the track that always makes our conversations within the podcast not feel like podcasts themselves, which is the best possible thing from my position, is just having a conversation with a friend. And that is certainly today. So you guys are going to enjoy it. You're going to find value from Olin's wisdom, words, stories, everything in between. If you enjoy it, hit the follow or subscribe button so you never miss another episode. Hit the 5-star review, takes 5 seconds, and share the podcast with a friend. I'd appreciate you doing those 3 things that take next to no time and help us out exponentially. Without further ado, enjoy this conversation with the man, the myth, the legend, newly crowned U.S. champion, Mr. Olin Hacker. Olin Hacker, welcome back to the podcast, this time with a freaking U.S. title to your name. Congrats, man. How you doing this afternoon?
I'm doing great. Yeah, got my first U.S. title, and now back in Flagstaff, getting ready for the rest of the summer.
Let's go, man. For those that didn't see it, just go on like Olin or NAZ Elite's Instagram page. They'll see the celly was cold. Was that planned? Have you been thinking about that? How'd you have energy to hop up in the air like that? It was like Ronaldo in the flesh.
It was organic. It was not planned, but I feel like I have had some celebrations, some fist pumps like that before. I feel like that is often what I end up doing. But yeah, I was, especially because it came down till pretty late. I was just like so excited to cross the finish line first. Had to let some emotion out. But yeah, like watching it back, it was a little violent, honestly. Like I'm watching back, I'm glad I didn't like trip or anything, because that has actually happened. I've like crossed a finish line and then like a couple steps later, my like spike caught the track and I just went face first down. So I'm glad I stayed on my feet.
I saw another video that I think you were talking to like Casey, congratulating him right after you crossed the finish line. You seemed pretty with it. You seemed like you had a lot of oxygen in the lungs. It low-key seemed like you could have ripped another 3.1 mile rep. How are you feeling post-race?
Yeah, I was feeling really good. Like I was kind of surprised at what sort of fitness I was in and like how well I was able to handle those paces. Kind of all through the race, I was feeling pretty in control, which is a really, really nice way to feel in a race. And I was just kind of waiting. It was slowly getting whittled down. I was, making sure to stay towards the front, like kind of maybe putting in some half moves here and there. But yeah, I feel like I wasn't really driving the train, and like everybody else was putting in moves. Ahmed, my teammate, was putting in some hard moves, as well as Dylan Maggard. He really put in some hard moves, and I think kind of at the end like separated the 4 of us from the field. But yeah, then I was just like really waiting until as late as I could, because I think I kind of made a mistake in the road mile where I exposed myself a little too early. I ran the US Road Mile Championship in Des Moines about a week and a half before, and I kind of like almost hit the front, kind of came up alongside Vince, and maybe exposed myself too early, because even though like finish line was like 300 meters away, it looks pretty close, and everyone just blew right by me. And so this one I really like, even though we could see the finish line for like 600 meters, I really tried to wait as long as I could. And then, yeah, kind of because of that, as I crossed the finish line, I felt like I had a lot of energy.
What would you say for those listening? Most people can relate to a track race, or even something like a marathon, maybe for the older listener out there, but not like a super, super fast, like 5K. I mean, a lot of people race road 5Ks, but I feel like when you get in the system of like high school, college, you kind of stop doing them. Maybe you do them in the summer as like a little tune up on heavy legs. But what would you say as a pro is like the difference between like a track 5K and a road 5K? and which would you say has more tactics? Because I would think track, but as you kind of describe and explain there, it seems like there's like a lot of mental evaluation that goes on. I mean, the winning time was 13:32, so pretty fast, but probably not all out the entire time.
Yeah, it is. It's a lot of fun, I think. I think the road is fun. But yeah, they're definitely very different. I think you're right. I think there's more tactics when it comes to a track 5K, mostly just because I think positioning is more important because you want that spot on the rail, but you also want to be far enough up to respond to moves. And so I think positions are a lot more at a premium on the track. On the road, like because you can kind of spread out, you can always be pretty close to the lead, even if you're like on one side of the road versus the other. I think what was interesting was like I feel like running tangents really becomes important because there was a lot of turns and like yeah, when you're going that fast, any extra distance you run is just like makes it that much harder. So that was really something I was trying to pay attention to. And I feel like there was a couple times where I was able to like kind of hit a tangent well, hit a corner well, and then yeah, that just gave me a couple steps on everyone, and I was able to just like kind of relax for a couple steps, recover, and just kind of stay with the pack. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's like it's a lot more like cross country. I feel like the road 5K goes by way faster than a track 5K. You're not counting laps, and yeah, it's just like it's varied. You know, things stay interesting, and it's like it is just a lot easier to stay at the front without fighting people for position a lot, and like easier to cover moves and pay attention to what people are doing.
How do you calculate your finishing kick on a road 5K in a road race? As you mentioned a week and a half before at the mile, maybe you didn't time it perfectly, learned from your mistake there, brought it back for the 5K, ultimately made your move. I see a lot of times, more so with Fifth Ave, because I feel like that's the one race every year that like I for sure tune in and watch on TV because it's on NBC. I feel like most road races aren't. So many people make their move too soon, but it's really hard to know because it's not like a track, as you were like, you don't know where you're at. So how do you personally calculate it?
Yeah, it's just like preparation. So I think both the road mile and the 5K, I went out and checked out the course the day before, and actually both of them I like picked a spot, whereas like I kind of knew the problem was I didn't know exactly where the finish line would be for both of them, but I knew around where it was, and then I tried to figure out like about where 200 meters from the finish line is, and like 400 and even like 100 from the finish line, and then I kind of picked a landmark and like decided like okay, if it's like comes down to the very end, this is when I want to make my move, and then I know I can make it to the finish line, like know how far that is, because yeah, it can be pretty deceiving on the road to like to know exactly where you are, how far you are out. And yeah, I think I kind of let my excitement get away from me a little bit in the road mile because I was feeling really good 400 to go. Um, and so I kind of went a little bit early and then had less gears than I realized. So yeah, the 5K, I feel like I waited until the spot that I picked, which is like kind of the last street we crossed. But it was also like, it kind of worked out because I was just like covering moves, and Casey Klinger made a really hard move. And I knew I had to cover that. And then it's kind of about feeling out your opponent a little bit too. Like once he made that move, I could kind of tell he went into top gear, and then I could feel that I could go faster yet. So or like at least once I thought that he had reached top gear and I knew that I had more, then I just accelerated more, and I felt like I had it at that point.
I love Casey. This is not slandering him or BYU in any way. This is purely a curiosity question. What were you in high school at the same time as him? College?
Yeah, I
Definitely in
was.
college at the same time. Who's older?
I'm older.
Okay.
But I'm not positive. I think I'm 1 or 2 years older than. I think I'm 2 grades older than him.
Okay.
But yeah, we overlapped in high school, I guess a little bit. But I think he like won NXN the year
Twice?
after I graduated.
Yeah. I think he won it
Yeah,
twice. I think he's one of the only people to ever win it twice because I think he won junior and
I
senior
believe.
year.
Yeah, so that makes that. Then he's 2 grades
Yeah.
younger than me.
You should have stayed in the NCAA, won a few more titles. But real quick aside, and then we'll get back to the race for sure. But speaking of the NCAA, what are your like quick reactions on like a Ethan Strand 348 next week? Gary runs I think 349 high 348. Ethan and Parker running 7:30 to open their season. Like, it's crazy, man.
You're still talking indoor? I'm talking outdoor where, you had those Villanova guys, Liam and Marco, run 3:33, and then Ethan ran 3:33, Abel ran 3:33, and Parker
Isn't
ran
3:48 more
3:34.
impressive though? Isn't 3:30? Is 3:33 converted faster than 3:48?
I don't know.
This is the American in me. There's something about the mile. There's something about saying it's
I think they're somewhat similar.
Okay.
It's insane regardless. So I guess that's been my most recent mind blown, kind of just all those guys running that fast. But yeah, like the times that were being run indoors this year were silly. I have to shout out Gary Martin too, because right before he ran 3:48, that was at Milrose. I was there too, and I did pre-meet with him, and we had a good time.
There you go. Pre-meet with Olin and you'll run super fast the next day. Note to self. Or if you're listening, if you happen to be in the same vicinity as Olin, hit him up. $50,000 for a pre-meet with Olin Hacker. Premium. Do anything for a PR. What do you think has changed between when you were in college and like present day college? Because I know you were training really hard in college. I know like you had belief. I think it was like the introductory period to super shoes. I don't think they've gotten that much crazier, but athletes are definitely running faster. So what would you accredit it to?
Yeah, I'm honestly not sure. Like, because yeah, like kind of when I was finishing up, that's when super shoes started. So I didn't wear super shoes, at least like the, a plated, a carbon spike with like the Piba foam until my last outdoor season. And they were kind of available before that. I just didn't have them. But yeah, so like I feel like with people kind of getting access to them and getting used to them, I think that made a big difference. But I kind of expected the times to then settle out, after like 1 or 2 years, really. But yeah, I feel like it's just gotten continually faster, steady for the last couple of years, and I feel like at a faster rate than it had been before. Like I feel like always year to year things get a little bit faster with some ups and downs, but like consistently it's been getting so much faster. And yeah, I don't really know what to attribute it to other than like everyone's just like raising their game. They're seeing what's possible and then making goals and taking the steps to accomplish those. And then once one person does that, everybody else is just rising to that level. But yeah, like the level in the NCAA right now is insane. And so like to be successful in it, like, yeah, you have to be running really, really fast. And just like the fact that I guess you're required to do that to do well in the NCAA, people are just rising to that challenge.
Do you think that we'll get to a point, whether it's collegiate, high school, professional, whatever that barrier is for each, for high school, maybe sub 4, for college, I don't know even what it is now. Pro, I don't know what it is, but where times just no longer matter? Because I could see a reality where college kids are going like 3:39 in the mile, like way down the road. And me as like a 50-year-old, I'm just like, I just want to see who wins, because 3:39, I literally have no reference point anymore. Or sub 4, I think we're actively seeing, I think in 10 years, maybe 5, high school boys will stop talking about that as a barrier. It'll probably just be like national record or anything. It's a crazy reality, but I think we're slowly getting there. Like yeah, recently, what's his name? Tommy Latham broke 4 and no one talked about it on social media. And I was like, this does not have the spice it did 3 years ago. 3 years ago, all of running media would have hopped on this kid.
Yeah, it's wild. Like it is crazy to think of a time where I guess, yeah, we're kind of there where it's like you have so many high schoolers breaking 4 that it almost becomes, I don't want to say commonplace because it's not. It's just not. It's insane. It's like if you're breaking 4 as a high schooler, that's so crazy. But yeah, I think it is interesting to think like, yeah, in the next, maybe even like say 10 years down the line, like, like almost every state meet you'll have someone from most states breaking 4, or like any state meet would be like 1 in around that time. And like, I think it's always going to be a big deal just because of the barrier that it is, but I think it'll become a big deal to a different group of people. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, just like the way things are progressing, I think times will always be important, but it's like, it just is whoever is going to run the fastest time, then they're going to be the one that everyone's talking about. Because I feel like that is something that is cool about running, is that you can always like look to improve yourself, and you have a very measurable way to do that by looking at the time that you run. And so regardless of what that time is, like, it's always a race against the clock to some extent. But yeah, then I think the same that it is now, like the championship races are what people are going to look at the end of the day. I know that's what I look at the end of the day. And the people that compete well and can win races is, yeah, I think that's what people pay attention to as well.
Speaking on the sub 4 barrier, gotta ask, because I've seen you there the last 2 years. Festival Miles, 3 years in a row. Olin times Dominic. Yes, no, maybe
yes,
so.
That's the plan. I'm entered, as long as, you never quite know how the season go, if I need to go run a bunch more 5Ks or something, but I plan to see you there.
Let's go. Oh, I should have totally worn it. Okay, exclusive story for people out there. So you won the race last year, right?
No, second last year.
Okay, second. Regardless, you ran really well. And I remember we were wrapping up, like, I think we were basically done with like all media at that point. So I was just kind of hanging on the track, and Hoka or Festival Miles, or like one of the people there, gave out like these like autograph cards and did some cool stuff. And so I was on the track just hanging, and I think it was you were like meeting some fans, shaking some hands, high-fiving some people, and there's this little boy trackside, and you were like, do you want my race bib or something like that? And he was like, no, I don't. He literally said no to your face. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I mean, and that, to me, as like someone who grew up in this sport, like I grew up in Toledo, Ohio. We didn't have any significant meets ever. And so actually my first year at Festival of Miles after I graduated high school is the first like big time track meet I had ever gone to.
Really?
And so I was like, wow. Yeah, I mean, just because Ohio is pretty small and I didn't really travel and didn't grow up with a lot of money, like I never went to like any pro track meets. So to see that kid, whoever you are, if you're listening, shame on you. I would have died to be in your shoes. Literally denies you. And then we had these really cool like Hoka global running tees that Hoka dropped that week. And I was like, Olin, I'll make your day. I was like, you can sign my shirt. So you signed my shirt.
It did. So that helped. That really helped my ego there.
So to this day, Olin Hacker signature. And I actually wear that shirt quite a bit. And people are always like, whose autograph is that? And I'm like, Olin Hacker's, and tell them the story. So core memory. Good moment.
That was fun. Yeah, normally people are excited to get the bibs after, but do you
remember that
I
kid?
like to think he was just like, like, I'm not that excited about it, but you could give it to somebody else and really make somebody else's day. He was being selfless there, I like to imagine.
Okay. Well, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt there. I will say 2 sub 4. I've talked to a few people about this. I don't know if it'll be this year, but the speculation, and this would be nuts, is that Heat 2 of the Boys Mile has someone who breaks 4. That is when we'll be in like another, because last year there was speculation it would happen because the slowest time and the fastest heat was like 4:04, and I think this year it's like going to be 4:03, 4:04.
Yeah, so they're gonna have to get like a really world class pacer to pace Heat 2.
I need to text Owen Powell, but he ran 3:56 indoors. People always throw around the Allen Webb record. I don't think it'll go down. But I find you're not going to travel from Seattle, Washington to St. Louis, Missouri to not run a PR. And if you're running faster than 3:56, 3:52 isn't that far off. And if you're running 3:52, you borderline need someone who's like a really, really good professional runner and will give up their own race. So it'll be fascinating.
Yeah, the question is the high school boys race going to go faster than the pro men's race?
What is the pro men's race normally won in?
Past 2 years it's been 3:56.
Yes, that will be.
Yeah, I think the pro men's record is like 3:54 or something.
Really? So, I mean, but do you think you guys will be like, no, a high schooler is not going to beat us?
Well, that's the thing. That's what I'm wondering. It's like, I guess I don't know what the order of the meet is, but in the past it's been the high school boys have gone before us. Yeah. So yeah, if we see them run 3:54, say, is it gonna be like, all right, we gotta run faster than that?
Low key, I think they should put the high school boys at the end of the final race.
Yeah, to me that is, I think the high school, the top high school boys, top high school girls heats, like I think that's the culmination of the meet. That's the climax of the meet. So I think they should close it with that.
Even though you're a pro runner now, high school is forever ago. Do you still get excited about, like, I don't know how extensively you follow it, but like, yeah, when you're at St. Louis at the track, like, oh, what are the storylines? Who's racing? What are people going to run?
I feel like I've paid attention to it a little bit. Like I know some of the names, especially like being at Foot Locker, meeting a bunch of the high schoolers there. Like I feel like that kind of helps me stay in touch a little bit. But yeah, like I mean, like every level these days, it's like, yeah, some of these high schoolers are doing some crazy stuff. I paid attention to Arcadia. That was cool with Owen Powell, what he closed in like
408, I think.
What was his last
408, 409.
408, but he closed in like a 52 or something.
That's insane.
Right? I feel like, and I've seen like some of his workouts where he's like doing some real like speed workouts. I'm like, couldn't do that.
He's crazy. Yeah, he's nuts. That's why I'm like, I need to talk to him. I'm going to get him on the series before the race, but I kind of want to make it like closer to the race. It's kind of hard to speak like a month and a half out. Yeah. So I haven't talked to him, but like he has got the 8 time to run, I think close to 3:52, and how well he ran that 32 at or 2 mile at Arcadia. Like he's got the strength to close that fast. So it's exciting. And I don't know if you know this, but literally just entered in the top heat are 4 milers, which has never happened. So there's Owen, who's run 3:56, Josiah, who's run 3:57 high, Josiah 3:59, Tommy 3:59. And then I think there are like a few others that are like 4:0, 4:01. So
well, yeah, I raced Josiah and Tavon Kitchen at Sound Running at the 10 event. We were all in the 1500.
Really?
And that was pretty fun because yeah, like saw them warming up. I had met Josiah at Foot Locker. So like we said hi. But
that's gotta feel ridiculous. What'd that feel like?
Well, it was fun.
Like, I chaperoned you 2 months ago.
I was like, I gotta make sure these guys don't hawk me down. And like honestly, they were close because I made in that one, yeah, I made a move to the front at like, I don't know, like 500 or 600. And I like felt so good. And then I started to like get past and like, you kind of moved too early, got blown up a little bit in the last like 200 and they were gaining on me. I think Josiah was like a second behind me. I was like 339. He ran like 340.
Sheesh. I also remember from last year, I think Xavier, Isaac, and I got like Domino's. I just remember getting like Domino's and you were at the table. I was like, you want some? We ate Domino's.
Oh yeah, that was nice. That was just like a nice even hanging out in the hotel lobby, just eating pizza.
Because I think we had an early morning flight. So yeah, that race is always, speak to the atmosphere there. Because I think a lot of people who haven't been don't know what it's like. Like I think that is so much cooler. Not that we'd ever have a US championships at the St. Louis University high track, but like Hayward, you'll never fill it. And so it's never going to be like, and I've been to USAs, I've been to Olympic trials. There's something about that track and how small it is, yet just big enough that you can pack like 4,000 people.
I think it's really cool because there's a big history to that event. And I think like that's what I think oftentimes makes meets special, like when there's so much history. And so like I feel like people just like know about it. And like I think local people just show up and like they like to watch that race because they know it's the same time every year. They know it's a good time. But yeah, it's like I feel like that track is kind of enclosed a little bit. There's kind of like there's stands on one side and then kind of a grass hill along the other. And like it's at night, it's under the lights, and there's just people lining that whole last turn, people down the whole home stretch. And then I feel like there's even like maybe like a single layer of people kind of around the back stretch on the first turn. But yeah, it just gets loud. And like, I mean, yeah, those people have come to expect some really fast miles and they've been delivered. And so, yeah, they just get excited to watch all these miles. And it's a pretty fun event to be, and it's like pretty much all focused on miles. I think sometimes there's some 800, there's some other events. I think there's a mascot dash as well.
Yep.
But yeah, it's just like so focused on the mile. And so like, I feel like it just builds and builds and builds through the night as you go through all these different races, all these different people like just ripping a mile. And yeah, the atmosphere just like, you can feel it to start to ramp up because you're kind of just hanging out and then you start to warm up. You hear the crowd like cheering and like, it's easy to get excited to race there.
The introductions, take on those, because I feel like they do those almost cooler than anybody else.
Yeah, they get the steam going, they get some intros going. I feel like they always do take a while though, and you're kind of like you're kind of like standing around like you're like, oh, I kind of want to do some more strides, but they're about to introduce me. But yeah, it's like once they introduce you, like you kind of do your stride onto the track. They've got like they got some like fake smoke going or whatever. Like that's pretty cool.
Let's run it back a few months ago. You make a world team indoors. You end up placing 5th in the 3K, running a season's best of 7:45.4. World indoors is always so bizarre. Like you always have the randomest of characters who make the meet, who make moves. I know Sam Galeman pretty well. Love him. Love his story. That is not the type of dude I thought would be like low-key looking like he could win it with like 200 to go. It is actually a really cool event where it's like a little unorthodox compared to like Worlds Outdoors or like it's a really cool event. What was it like for you?
Well, so I made the indoor team last year, not this year.
2024. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. So off.
But yeah, you're totally right. Like
misread the 2024, and I can't believe we're in 2025. Anyways, take me through last year. Will make me look not as bad.
Yeah, check out if you want to hear about my race from last year. I think we did a podcast a little bit after. Check that one out.
I think we did. Total misread. But recapping it just quickly for people, because I think something I want to talk about closing out this conversation is just like your ambitions going into the U.S. championships this year. Obviously, tactics play into that. You win the U.S. Road 5K championships. And so, yeah, I think tactics play a big part outdoors. Talking about last year, big stage. What was that like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like just watching the World Indoors this year, the 3K is always super crazy because like you get on that 200-meter track, like it's tactical, it's slow, then it goes fast, then sometimes it slows back down. Like it's just positioning so important. And yeah, some of those guys, like Sam Galeman especially, like he was charging for home so hard, like it seemed like he was gonna medal. He was just off.
So close. Yeah.
And I think it does kind of just show you it's like you just put yourself there and you can do amazing things. And yeah, that's like I feel like my indoor season didn't go as well this year as it did last year. And that's just, the reality of the sport. And it was disappointing to not make that team. Like that was a big goal for me this winter. But yeah, I feel like you just have to move on, kind of use it as fire, like grow from it, learn from what you did wrong. And for me, I think that was just like trying to get healthy and putting in some really good training going into the outdoor championships. Which is in a couple months. We still got some time just because Worlds is so late. So that'll be end of July, start of August. But yeah, the goal is to put myself up there in that US 5K final. And yeah, close like hell.
How do you structure training with Jack when the championships is so late, but you still want to hit key races like this 5K championships? Like even a festival miles to some extent. I'm sure that's a smaller dot on the calendar, but like from a fitness perspective, how do you plan it out and how different is it from last year?
Yeah, it is. It definitely is different. And I think actually something that we decided maybe we could have done better last year was actually race a little bit more. I feel like I had some good races indoor. And then we had just this really long training block and it went really well. But I feel like then by the time I started to race again, I was almost a tiny bit overtrained or just like a little bit stale from not racing, not really taking down weeks. So yeah, we've kind of built more races in, and especially because we have more time to schedule races before USA's. Like I can still do a good racing block now, kind of all the way through May into June, and then still have a full month to like kind of put aside and really focus towards USA's. But yeah, I think it's about like, making sure I'm staying fresh through the season racing, but also having a good base under me so that I can handle a lot of racing, can handle, a deep racing and training into the summer. And just making sure I have that kind of base of threshold and mileage. And I think something we do is we're always doing, some volume threshold work once a week as much as we can, just to kind of like, because that's I feel like that's what you can lean on when like, because as you get closer to racing season, you definitely want to sharpen up. You want to like prime those physiological systems to be able to run really fast. But at some point, to be able to do that, you have to have that base volume of mileage and threshold. And I think being able to do that, definitely through the fall, through the winter, and then kind of through this section of spring, even with some racing, will set me up to be able to race through the summer.
I feel like you're at the stage in a few years into your professional running career that like you're no longer considered a newbie. You've got experience. People probably are looking to you in these races of like, oh, Olin, he's an experienced guy, not an older guy, not to date you here, but you definitely have experience now. How do you view a US championships here, specifically before the off year next year, in terms of capitalizing your chance, not even necessarily like putting it all on red, putting it all on like making the team, like your whole identity, your running career is based on it, because it's not, you have a bunch more years of successful running ahead. But as we talked about, you made a world team last year, not this year, and have done big things in your career already. So like the next logical step is making an outdoor team. How do you view this year's championships?
Yeah, that's always the goal. Every year, the goal is to make the world team, because that's the biggest stage in our sport. And yeah, that's where I want to be. But yeah, I feel like I have learned a little bit, like, because even like starting as a pro, I started a little bit older than a lot of people coming out of college. But yeah, that first year at USA's, I was just like happy to be there, wanted to compete as best I could, but like I don't know, I felt like it's like my first year, like I thought I had a shot to make it. I wanted to try to make it, but like I wasn't necessarily going in being like, this is my race. But then I kind of feel like I went in last year with a different mindset, just with having indoors gone well, like having some faster times to my name. Like I went into the trials being like, I'm making this Olympic team or bust. Like I can't, I can't handle defeat. I'm making this team. This is mine to make. And again, I didn't make it. I actually ran worse at the trial, or finished worse at the trials than I did at the US Championships the year before. And I think to some degree it was like I almost put too much pressure on myself. I kind of had a racing stint in Europe after that, and put together a couple of really good races, won a couple of races. And obviously like kind of the level of competition in those races wasn't the same as the US Championship. But I found that like sometimes to let the pressure off a little bit and just run free, like I've kind of been finding that is a helpful mindset for me to be in. So I feel like coming into this one, obviously the goal is to be top 3, make the team. But I'm kind of trying to come in with a little bit more freedom, being a little bit more relaxed, like just being, not putting everything on it. Because I think that was kind of the other thing coming off the trials last year, is like I feel like it took me a while to recover from that mentally, just because I had put so much into it. I had like put so much emotional energy into being like, I have to make this team. And then once it didn't happen, I was like, where the heck do I go from here? And so I think a lot of the experience that I've gained over the years is what's the best way for me personally to approach a championship race, to approach how do I approach the most important race in my season. But then also like, how do I take that mindset into every race? Because every race is important, every race is an opportunity. And it's, I think as I remembered in Indianapolis winning that 5K, winning's fun, and I hadn't won a race since last July. And so just to be in that race, to win, like that reminded me a lot of what I love about the sport. And it's not that I forgot about what I love the sport. I love the day to day. I love training with my teammates. I love what I'm able to do. I love living in Flagstaff, just running in the pines. But yeah, I feel like kind of trying to figure out exactly what my mindset going into, each race and then the US Championship specifically, in order to get the best out of myself. So that's what I've been learning and working on.
I love it, man. 2 final questions for you before we wrap this up and send people on their way home. First one for you: I'm gonna do some marketing whiz here. Studies have shown that if you tease something before it drops, there's a greater interest and people are more likely to buy it. Olin's not selling anything here, but he is potentially starting a podcast. So Olin, where did the idea for this come from? What can people roughly expect? And even if it doesn't come out for another 6 months, why are you excited about it?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, I've been chatting with my dad some. I was at home over the fall and then over the winter. And we were kind of just talking about running and kind of through my whole career. I guess for some context, my dad was a professional runner. Ran for Wisconsin, grew up in Wisconsin running high school. So I feel like we've had a lot of mirroring between our two careers. And I feel like he was always someone that I could go to ask for advice about running, and just like talk about what we were excited about in the sport. And we were kind of talking about it, over the times I was home, and we're like, what if we just recorded this? Like, I think too, it's been fun for me to kind of hear some of his stories and to have like a recorded record of that. I think that'd just be something that's special to me. So yeah, we kind of chatted a little bit about, maybe sharing some of our experiences, sharing some of our, some of the things we've learned, talking about, some current events in the space, and even maybe, talking to some other people, interviewing some other people, potentially even like parent-child running duos that maybe have a similar experience to us, but maybe it's a little bit different. And just, yeah, exploring that kind of angle.
I love it, man. So excited to see it all go down when it does. I'd say people should just follow you on Instagram if they don't, to stay up to date. I'm assuming that's where they'll find out about
it. It'll be on my Instagram. Yeah.
Okay. Amazing. Olin, only other question for you, wrapping this one up. For those who have listened, what's the final takeaway message that you want to leave with them?
I'd say at the moment is, I want to be having fun running races. I want to influence the race that it's happening. I want to win races, but also like, I want my competitors to know I'm there, have to respond to me, and I want to, play a part in these important races that I get to be a part of.
I love it. So well said. Olin, final question for you. I got to end on a light note. Off the track, what are you most looking forward to in the coming months?
In the coming months? Couple things. It's so my birthday is coming up in May 21st, and my girlfriend's birthday is May 19th.
May is the month.
That's really fun. We have like a little back-to-back birthday week. I think we'll go out to a nice dinner for that. And I think in addition to that, it's just like, it's starting to get really nice in Flagstaff. The past couple of days have been raining, but today is like beautiful sunny day. And to like just get back to like just these sunny days in Flagstaff, just training, being outside. Happy that that's happening.
Anything more? Yeah. Well, Olin, thank you so much for always taking the time to chop it up. I'll see you next month in St. Louis. One, to see if you can run faster than the high school boys, and two, to redeem the autograph massacre from last year, the bib massacre.
I'm going to give my bib out, and it's going to work this time.
You actually need to.
Maybe I'll come to you though, and we can kind of scope it out. Try to figure out who wants it.
What kid wants it? I'll create a lot of hype. Like the day before, I'll post on my Instagram story and be like, Olin Hacker is giving away his bib tomorrow. Like, you better be there. Whoever who's ever positioned.
And then I'm just gonna forget to do it.
Yeah. Right. Well, anyways, Olin, thank you so much, man. Have a great rest of your day. We'll talk soon.
Great talking with you. Thanks for having me on.